This week on the Dan Le Batard Show, we're back, and it's all been much ado about Stu. Well, ladies and gentlemen, did you miss us? You might be wondering, Nasty Nate, how could you go silent during this time? This bombshell that dropped over a month ago. Stu Gotts is stepping back, and Nasty Nate steps back too. Have no fear, Dan Le Batardians. The Dan Le Batard Show is not going anywhere. You want to know what my thoughts are on Stu Gotts? Guess what? I already said a bunch of stuff on the YouTube, just not in the podcast. I did a live because where was I when it happened? I was in Las Vegas. So what did I do? I did a live from a bathtub in Las Vegas with 2 cocktails. Put all my feelings out there, overreacted about the whole thing. To then see Mike Ryan tweet, like, I don't know what to tell you guys. He's in next week. Making it seem like it's not a big deal. Like, as fans of the show, we all know Stu has stepped back. His role on the show has not been the same. And we've known that for a while. It's been talked about, and all these theories have been out. And people have speculated, like there was the Stu Gotts going to WFAN thing happened last year. Then he has the long hiatus this year, and the news comes out after on a God Bless Football episode. It's announced that God Bless Football won't be on the Meadowlark feed, which when I first heard that, I thought, are they dropping the bombshell that they're not coming back to DraftKings? Because I just couldn't fathom that it was about Meadowlark, but that's actually what it was. It was, which is weird, a weird way to let it slip that Stu Gotts, Stu Gotts' properties are no longer with Meadowlark. Stupodity, which is being rebranded but has yet to be rebranded, is it Stu Gotts and Company, which I riff on Dead and Company. But that happens, and I do my live, and then you're wondering, why have you not put out an episode in over a month? The last episode is an episode of God Bless Highlight previewing the championship. By the way, congratulations, Go Cherry and the Renegades becoming the first three-time Battle Core champions. Good for you, Go Cherry, cementing your legacy. But did I go silent? Well, folks, here's the deal. I have tried to record this episode. I think this is like this is the 4th time that I'm sitting down to record an episode about Stu Gotts and what has happened on the Dan Le Batard Show. And every time what's happened is something about the recording. I just didn't like how it went. And I was like, okay, tomorrow night I'll work on it and fix it. And then I'm just like, I just don't like how it came out and sounded, and I just let it sit and not edit it. And then basically like, I'll do something next week. And then something happens that changes how to view the Stu Gotts story, right? Some more information comes out. So I record an episode, but this time it's different and I have to add things onto it. And so I've done this. This is now my 4th time, I think, trying to record this episode and put it out. And I've been like, enough's enough. I'm putting this episode out like no matter what. So I hope I do a decent job. I'm going to actually go back and cover everything. So maybe that's going to be a little bit redundant, but March 2nd, get the bombshell. I hear it on God Bless Football. And again, I think it's DraftKings. And then the article drops. It's in the Reddit. See all that. I'm like, oh my gosh, like Stu Gotts is stepping back, being like, oh, kind of freaking out a little bit, like, wow. And Stu Gotts leaving Meadowlark. So I go live from a bathtub with 2 cocktails and talk all these things out, but then see the Mike Ryan tweet, and people on the Reddit, a lot of people are commenting on it, and something is said like, you know what, they're going to do the bit where on Monday they never talk about it. And I commented, it was like, I hope they talk about it. Like, a lot of fans care about this. And I would hope that they just address it and communicate it clearly. And you know what they did? They did not address it. They did the elephant in the room, literally an elephant. Stu Gatz did also this tweet that was a bit like I'm breaking my silence, but it was him talking about a Steph Curry take that he had, and they literally had an inflatable elephant. And they make some jokes, but the show doesn't address it. And Stu's on that week like two, maybe three times. I think two. Um, two times, two or three times, either whatever. Two or three times he's on. Show doesn't address it. Next week, what happens? Stu Gatz is out, and we get the whole thing of, does anyone know where Stu Gatz is? Um, he was scheduled to be in today, but he's not here today. And that's a bit where, like, man, kind of tired of that bit. It doesn't add anything. Like, if Stu Gatz is scheduled to be there, either he'll be there and he's there, or he'll do a Stu Gatz thing apparently and not be there. But I'm kind of tired of the show bringing it up because it doesn't add anything to the show at this point. It's tiresome and honestly kind of annoying, as the majority of people have jobs where, like, if you're scheduled to work you need to show up to work, and like it's pretty easy. Like, as a teacher, like, I just can't not show up to work. If I get sick or something comes up, I have to create a sub and plan all these things in advance, and like I can do that. And the majority of people have jobs where, guess what, that's what you got to do, and it's not a hard difficult thing. So this bit of Stu Gatz, like, where is he? I don't know. He didn't tell anybody. It's tiresome, honestly. And now you're kind of sensing like why I've had, because I'm a little bit critical of the show and how they've handled it. I'm a positive guy, and the Fan Le Batard show, the way I view this show is I want to just celebrate how I love the show and how great it is, and I don't care to critique the show. And I am not one of those people. I think the show has gone down. Like, I love the show, I still love the show, and every day I turn it on, it makes me smile. And throughout all this, I still love the show and I support everybody that's a part of it. That being said, this might be the most critical I will ever be of the show, in terms of I don't think they've handled this whole Stu Gatz thing well. But let's continue. So Stu Gatz is out, and then every day there's actually these little comments that kind of address the Stu Gatz controversy, which is like, now it kind of feels like Dan feels the need to address it, because you did this whole bit of like, oh, it's not a big deal, like everything's still going to be the same, but then Stu Gatz like bounces. And even since like Stu Gatz's return from his hiatus, like things have not been the same. Like, he had that whole tooth thing, which I don't doubt he had a tooth thing, but I don't think he needed to I don't think he needed to miss as much time on the Le Batard show as he did for the tooth thing, because he went on Greg Cody's podcast and Billy mentioned it on God, like, what are you doing going on? You need to look out for yourself, which is an interesting comment in the context of all of this. Like, if you're gonna, he went on there, I think, to give takes about, I can't even remember, maybe it was the draft. Like, why didn't you give those takes on God bless football? Like, you need to look out for yourself and build up the things that you're doing, which is an interesting comment in all of this. So the second week, Stu is out, and it feels like the show's backpedaling a little bit. And Dan made this comment while onboarding Pablo to the show, where he's like, oh, if you're wondering why Stu Gatz is stepping back, it's because he wants to turn God Bless Football into a rocket ship, and he wants to blow it up just like Pablo is blowing it up. And I love helping my friends do that. So Dan pitches it as like Stu Gatz is stepping back, and kind of pitches it as him being a little magnanimous in allowing Stu to do this, so Stu can make God Bless Football this really big, like, rocket ship thing. Which, when I first heard that, it did not sit well with me, because it didn't feel genuine. Like, and Dan is someone who, he's never, I'm not anyone who's like critical or harsh of Dan or thinks he's like a hypocrite. Like, I love Dan and I love listening to the show, and I don't know. There's all these things floating out there that like the oral history has made Dan look bad or look like a diva. Like I'm not in that camp. I don't make all these judgments, but when Dan said, I'm like, that just doesn't feel true, and it doesn't quite make sense. Like Pablo finds out is something that you are investing and is a part of Meadowlark, but Stu Gott's God Bless Football is not a part of Meadowlark, but you want your friends, like you're equating what Stu Gotts is doing to what Pablo's doing, but Pablo's a part of Meadowlark, and now Stu Gotts and his properties are not a part of Meadowlark, but he has a contract to be on the show. Like honestly, it's Stu Gotts is he like a guest host now that comes in every like 2 or 3 times a week, basically, a contract employee or whatever, and now he's doing his whole side thing. But that did not feel genuine to me. And I'll circle back around because guess what? More stuff has come out to show like it doesn't seem like that was Dan. When I heard that, it felt like that's Dan putting spin on it. And maybe he's not aware that he's doing that. And on in all of this, there was another thing that Dan did in the week that they're not addressing the whole Stu Gatz thing, like fans on Twitter are quoting the article saying, I'm done with the show now that they're leaving. And Dan is getting into at least one fan's DM and saying, stop being a dipshit. He's going to be on Monday, which I was kind of like, that's not a good look. I think Dan is being like humorous in his own way there, but people care about the show. That felt like big news. And you're gonna like you talk about this social media thing all the time, and you're gonna get into a fan's DMs, call them a dipshit for what they're posting, and act as if it's not a big deal because Stu's gonna be like, right? That's the whole point Dan's trying to make. It's not a big deal. You're being a dipshit. Like Stu's still on the show. It just did not seem like a good look. I didn't like it, even if Dan is trying to be humorous. And again, this is a show, the Le Batard show has been a show that's like, we're going to take our fans behind the scenes. We're going to reveal, like, one of the things of listening to the Le Batard show is you never know when Dan is going to start the show by like, and I just heard in the kitchen, and he's bringing you something that happened off air and feels genuine and real. Well, this whole like Stu Gotts thing that's been happening has felt like shrouded, and there's mixed messages. Like Mike Ryan's tweeting like, I don't know what to tell you, he's still going to be in. Chris Cody on the Greg Cody show is saying like Stu Gatz, he's been doing that for a couple years. Stu Gatz is still going to be in the same amount. Zaslow on his show is saying Stu Gatz is stepping back and going to be on significantly less. That's how Zaslow worded it. So there's all these different messages that are going out and around. And so the next week, Stu's back. But again, it's like Stu normally, and maybe it'll normalize when it gets to football season, but it felt like Stu's pattern was like he was on like it felt like Stu was on like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then it'd be gone Thursday, Friday. That's what it felt like to me. And now it's like I never know when I'm gonna get Stu Gotts since this announcement. Like he has not been. It felt like Monday was a consistent day for Stu to be in because he has weekend observations, right? So he's got to be on Monday to give those. So another week happens, and now we're in the last week of May here. Stu Gotts is back again. It's still weird, and now more episodes are coming out on the Stupodity feed. GBF is being pushed there. Stu Gotts does a couple episodes, like a flag football draft, and there's more content that's sporadically being put out in the Stupodity feed. We get notice that like this is going to be rebranded. It won't be Stupodity anymore. It's going to become something else, but subscribe, right? And the last episode of God Bless Football on the Lark, Goodbye Lark, comes out. And in it, Stugat says, like, hey, we might still be with DraftKings, God Bless Football. They've been a great partner to us. If you want to get mad at somebody, get mad at Le Batard and David Sampson. And then later in the show, Billy Gill makes a comment like, we're doing all these shows on the road. We should make David Sampson always talks about this bus. We should ask him and borrow his bus, and then we get canceled. That's what Billy says. And at the end of the show, Stugat says, how about thank you to everybody except David Sampson? So there's this like like, again, is that a bit what's real with this show? I don't know. honestly, I think there's a little bit of truth in that. But then the show responds on Monday, Mike Ryan commenting like, "Hey, did you hear what Stu? He's blaming you," and he says to Dan, "He's blaming you and David Sampson, even though it's something he negotiated." And they kind of laugh and like chuckle about it. And Billy, I believe, was there as well too. Doesn't say anything, which is interesting. Like it's where does Billy Gill sit on all of this? And so, like, right again, there's that kind of like going back, like Stu Gotts is again noted like liar or dishonest. Like he's been hooked up to a lie detector, and things that he said have been revealed to be false within that. Again, all that, but there's always a little bit of truth in a joke, right? Like I don't think, and Billy is the comments Billy's making on God Bless Football too about this, like seems like there's some truth there. And the way the show's spinning it, like I still love the show. I think the show's still great, and I'll listen and support no matter what they're doing. But I just, in this time, the thing that's frustrating, just be clear. I don't care what's happened. I don't care why. Well, okay, I do care about like I do care about these things, but I don't care to the point where like, oh, I'm gonna stop listening because of all this. I'm gonna keep listening, like no matter what, to the Le Batard show until Dan's fat fist sinks below the surface, right? And they ride off into the sunset. I'm Le Batard or die for life. Nasty Nate's just, I'm built that way, folks. So I'm always gonna support, but I care about, like, I just want to know like why this what's happening. Like, are Dan and Stu, do Dan and Stu still love us, the fans? Do we have two Christmases now? Are they breaking up? It seems like this is honestly this contract is like, this is the last we're going to be working together. And Stu Gotts in the past has made comments like, I only want to be on air for one more contract. But the things that he's doing now actually make it seem like why, if that's the case, why leave Meadowlark and do these other solo like side projects if there's only like one more contract that you want to be on air for? Like now it seems like there's maybe this contract is the last contract that perhaps Stu Gotts, or maybe this is going to be like the new way moving forward until both of them like hang it up. So either this is the last contract where these guys are together, um, or this is the new way the Le Batard show is going to look like, and Stu Gotts is going to have a larger solo career. It's something he's voiced and talked about on, ironically enough, a David Sampson Nothing Personal, I believe. And yeah, it's just all over the place, which brings us to this week, today, the day in which I'm recording this, but not the day in which you're listening to it. Stupidity drops. I get a notification on my iPhone. I'm on my summer break. I'm walking with my son to go to a neighbor's house to say, hey, he knocked a couple dingers. Son hit 4 home runs today, knocked all our balls over the fence, proud of him. And we're walking to our neighbors to go get the balls, and I see a notification on my watch that says hour 1, weekend observations. But simultaneously, you know what I'm listening to? I'm listening to the YouTube live. And I'm like, hour 1, that's usually live there. Stu's not in. Like, how's this gonna, and then I see it's like Stupidity, and I'm like, is this gonna drop in the Le Batard show thing? And I go, what? A Stupidity hour 1, and then an hour 2 drops later, and weekend observations are in Stupidity. Like that right there. Now going back to Dan's comment where I'm like, he's spinning this with, oh, I want Stu, like Stu's not stepping back to turn God Bless Football into a rocket ship. It's more than just Stu's not doing just God Bless Football. He's clearly trying to launch more of a solo Stu Gotts like career podcast, because now Weekend Observations, his beloved bit, is not in the Dan Le Batard show. That's big. That's huge. That's one of the most loved and consistent and bits that you think is going to be never ending, like the weekend observations will be there. Like probably when the Le Batard show ends, when they'll do like a final observations on top of like a weekend observations or whatever. Like it is iconic, and that iconic segment is not in the Dan Le Batard show. It is in Stupidity. Is this gonna be a normal thing? And and like that's confusing for me as a fan. Like you better talk about it. That's what I'm saying to the Le Batard show. You've got to talk about it. Let me know what things are gonna be like, and I'll ride with whatever. But you've got to talk about it, and you've got to make it clear to the fans what to expect. Because it, I just want consistency, right? It If Stu Gotts is gonna do weekend observations now in Stupidity, fine. So be it. Part of me though, what I want to say is like what I don't want is I don't want, oh, 1 week it's going to be in the Le Batard show, every other week. Like talk about being divorced, right? People have made this analogy of like a divorce. Every other week the weekend observations is going to be in the Dan Le Batard show, and then it's going to be with your single dad Stu Gotts and Stupidity. Like what is going on? And now honestly, it's embarrassing. I'm embarrassed for the show. It's embarrassing for spinning this and telling me, the fan, everything is normal when everything is not normal. When Stu Gotts is doing weekend observations, one of, if not, no, it is the most iconic Dan Le Batard show segment is weekend observations, and part of what makes it great is when Stu Gotts makes a mistake and seeing people's reactions or people's reactions to Stu's observations, or catching how Stu's observations like go back and forth, or how he says something that contradicts an observation he said earlier, or him asking questions, right? I guess you could ask that to Taylor, but it just doesn't land the same way as Dan. I have to go back honestly and listen, like, how did he start that? Did he say Taylor? That doesn't sound good with a two-syllable thing. Honestly, I was listening to it at such a fast speed. That's first thing I'm going to do when I'm done recording this episode is go back and listen to it. But uh it's this is why I haven't put this episode out. Every time I record this, uh I get here where I have not been in this place where I'm frustrated with the show and feel the need to voice it, but you fumbled the ball on this whole Stu Gotts thing. And as a fan of the show, which I'm always going to be, again, always going to be a fan, love, support, doesn't matter despite all this. But as a fan, it's like, can somebody just talk to me clearly about what's going on and not try to convince me that things are normal with the show? Like, it's okay for there to be change. It's okay for there to be conflict and for things to be different. Like, did Dan and Stu have conflict? Did things finally come to a head and now they're like less? Because here's another thing, people say Stu's on the same, although I'd say it's not the same. Like it's inconsistent. Before it felt like again Stu was on earlier in the week and not later. Now it's like I don't know what days I'm gonna get Stu, and now he's popping up sometimes solo on Friday. But you know what's happening? Less and less Dan and Stu are doing the show together. At least right now. Again, maybe this is me and others reading into it too much over the summer where schedules can vary during the summer, but not now. This is a big summertime, right? Not now. This is the NBA Stanley Cup Finals where you still have the Panthers in the finals. You had the Knicks. We had the Knicks in the Eastern Conference Finals, and we did not get a consistent Stu Gotts on the show to talk like Knicks and to try to tap into that market. So, and all the meanwhile, like the show is acting like things are normal with Stu Gotts, and Stu's been back a really long time. And you know what still hasn't been back? The oral history. Is the oral history dead? Is the oral history gonna come back or is it dead? Does Stu Gotts like not want to do it? Like what's happening there? Because he's been back a really long time and you guys haven't put back together an episode and you haven't even talked about it. And there's like a big part of your history coming up that you haven't addressed. Like, is the oral history just dead? So, yeah, weekend observations. My observations are things are not normal with the Dan Le Batard show. And I even said this on a Reddit comment because someone was like, "Is anyone else bothered by this?" And I was like, "Yeah, I am bothered by it. And I'm bothered by it because the show has not like I love the show. The thing that bothers me is like they're they want to talk like things are normal and things aren't normal. Like I just let me know what the new normal is and I'll ride with it, right? Um, and my comment was now I forgot like what the point of me bringing that up with. Oh, it felt like this is kind of feels like I'm not trying to be dramatic here, but it feels like the end of the Dan Le Batard show as we know it this week. The Le Batard show is forever going to be different when you have weekend observations on stupidity. That's a big, big difference. And again, Stu Gatz is not stepping back to blow up God Bless Football. Stu Gatz is stepping back for Stu Gatz, aka Billy Gill, telling him, "You got to look out for number one, buddy. You got to look out for yourself." That's what Stu's doing. He's trying to blow himself up. Is he trying to like build up his own portfolio to eventually ride off to New York and get his own show working with the callers there? I remember commenting and saying like, if Stu Gatz goes to New York, would I listen to his show? And I was like, I don't know. Now I'm kind of like, I would. I can't let go of these things. I love the Dan Le Batard show. I love Stu Gatz. I love all these, all the podcasts, and I listen to it way too fast. And maybe I missed some stuff because of it. But you know what I haven't missed? Weekend observations airing on another podcast. So look, Le Batard show, please, can we just sit down and talk about this and hash it out and tell the fans what this is going to look like going forward and stop acting like this is nothing? Because it's not nothing. And I'm going to end it there. There's a lot of things that I do want to Stanley Cup playoffs. Okay, no, I'm going to keep going actually just a little bit. First off, Stanley Cup. Big win for the Florida Panthers. But let me tell you, you look at the schedule 2-1, big win. You're feeling comfortable. Game four. Game four is a must win for the Panthers. That's right. You heard it. Game four, must win for the Panthers. Why? They get a couple of days off. It's not until Thursday. So they get 2 days off, and then they only get 1 day off to travel to Edmonton and play game five. So that's a big advantage, Edmonton, because that's a lot of travel, as you know. It's basically one whole day spent traveling to get there. You're basically spending all of your Friday to travel, and then you're playing again Saturday, which is advantage Edmonton because they're going to be back home playing on that shortened rest, which you would think would give them a little bit of an edge in game five. So game four, Panthers gotta have it. And that's my Stanley Cup analysis. Although Edmonton totally lost their composure, embarrassing all the cheap shots, 85 penalty minutes. And the last thing I want to talk about, do I want to just let it go or put it out there? I just want to say I love Nathan Fielder. I love the rehearsal. The rehearsal season two and the rehearsal as a show in general has become one of my all-time favorite shows. I'm tempted to even say it's my favorite show of all time just because I think the level of genius in it is so impressive. The amount of work that goes into some of the jokes, like it's a fictional reality show that within it has a fictional reality show, The Wings on a Voice, that goes through all of this just for a handful of like a few jokes that are really funny. But the amount of work that goes into those jokes and the layers that are part of it, the work that Nathan Fielder did to become a pilot. I did not have it on my Memorial Day weekend bingo card that Tom Cruise would get topped by Nathan Fielder. Way more impressed by Nathan Fielder than Tom Cruise, although those stunts in Mission Impossible were bananas. But Nathan Fielder taking 2 years to become a commercial pilot and then doing the Miracle over Mojave and then continuing to do interviews on CNN where if you watch it, they keep having to change the scroll describing him. Nathan Fielder, producer of the rehearsal, comedian, and then 737 pilot. And then he shows up at a San Diego Padres game. And Nathan Fielder, comedian / 737 pilot. And he's on CNN with the John Golgia, I think, and he's doing hits and he's calling the FAA stupid. Like, I am so impressed. And I'm just sitting here, like, fingers crossed, begging, like, HBO, please let this man keep doing this show and letting him do whatever, because season 2 was so genius. And the end of that, like, it's so incredible. Like, the episode before that, he goes to, like, I think the episode before that, episode 5, is where he goes and goes to the autism center, and that lady talks to him like he has autism, because that's a thing, apparently, from the show, where, like, people with autism appreciated the show because it shows, like, kind of how they have to sometimes rehearse to go out into the world to be able to interact with others, and, like, showing that, like, Fielder has autism. He's showing people what it's like to have autism. And the lady just straight up talks to him like he has it. And then for him to go through the work of becoming a pilot and the question of, like, do you have anxiety or blah, 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 etc. And he's like, I know I've felt anxiety, but do I have the disorder? And what do they mean by etc.? Clearly, like, hinting at autism. And he does this whole fMRI test, but he won't get his results by the time he flies the plane. And then what happens? They bring back Wings of a Voice at the end of the show. And I honestly, like, it's a really, for me, it's like a poignant moment. It's like poignant, funny, sticking it to people. Like, there's so many layers to the end of the rehearsal that I'm just blown away by the sheer geniusness of it, that he brings back the Evanescence joke, and while the singer is singing Evanescence, he gets a voicemail that they have his test results, and then he reveals to the audience, I've still been flying a plane, and it's like this nice little, like, coda or epilogue of, like, I'm still flying out there, and he deletes the voicemail, and he says, they only allow the smartest and best minds up here. It feels good to know that they only allow the smartest and best minds here. So if you're here, you know you're fine. An incredible closing line to the show, like saying, like, I'm fine, I don't have autism. But at the same time, like, it contradicts the whole show with, like, you know, it's one of those things where, like, you could talk about it. It's the spinning top of Inception, right? Except it's clear to me, he's doing a bit there, like, playing with the audience and playing with the people that said that. And even in that, when he deletes the message, it zooms in really tight on his eyes. And what, you know, one of the classic things about Fielder is this is an expressionless look that he kind of gives, and it zoomed in close to his eyes as a callback to that test where you had to look at somebody's eyes that he got 2 questions wrong at. And it's like, hey, audience, can you tell what I'm feeling now? Careful. If you get it wrong, are you autistic? So I thought the show, it was just genius, and I was blown away by it. And that's gonna do it. Hey, was this whole show Much Ado About Stu? Dan Le Batard Show is telling you it's much ado about nothing. I'm telling you, you gotta address it. Tell us clearly what's happening moving forward with Stu Gotts. Address it. Give us some consistency, and I'm fine with it. And even if you don't, I'm still going to ride with you because I love the show and I love everybody on it. And that's my 2 cents. Nasty Nate, out.